Shalom Ubracha, everybody. This week's Parsha, we reached the crescendo of the story of Joseph and his brothers. He had been hiding his true identity from them. They didn't know that it was their brother. And he was kind of stringing them along, leading them on this story that he's trying to interrogate them and give information about their family and eventually bring their youngest brother Benjamin down to Egypt to him. And finally he threatens them. He says, Benjamin stole from me, and Benjamin is staying with me. And Judah finally says, enough. He says, I'm going to stay instead of Benjamin. And if you don't accept that me staying as a slave instead of Benjamin, I'm ready to fight you or do whatever it takes to get my brother back. Joseph was testing his brothers. He wanted to see if they had really repented and done teshuvah, returned to God for their act of selling him, which is a horrible thing, to sell one's own brother to slavery. He was testing them, had they really changed? And the fact that they stood up so much for Benjamin showed that they really had done this teshuvah, they had returned to God on this matter. And not only this, he was helping them by them going through this distressful situation. Joseph was actually helping his brothers achieve atonement. Atonement is kind of the spiritual cleansing of the sin, and that's why he finally couldn't keep up the facade anymore. He breaks out in crying and says, "I'm your brother Joseph." And the brothers were shocked, and they were ashamed. And Joseph says to them, "You didn't send me here to Egypt. You didn't sell me as a slave. It was God. God was behind all of this." And Joseph is teaching us a powerful lesson in the belief of divine providence, the belief that God is behind everything. Every single little thing that happens, good and the seemingly opposite of good, God is behind it. And our job is to try to see God's hand in all of these things. Joseph really exemplified this behavior. Hashem is known as someone or something or an entity that God is noseh hapchim. In Hebrew that means Hashem can really hold dualities together. Hashem is duality as one, the opposites as one. And that's this power of believing in divine providence, even something that seems to be the opposite of good. And that eventually transforms these seemingly negative occurrences into the positive. And in the Haftarah, we read about the prophet, who the prophet is commanded to take two pieces of wood and write Judah and Ephraim and bring them together. It represents the bringing together of the opposite tribes of Israel, but also the bringing together of the opposite energies that are inside of us. And that is such a great lifelong mission to resolve inside. Even inside we have different parts of ourselves, and to come to that resolution and integration inside of us, that's a lifelong mission. And that's the power we get from reading the Torah, learning the Torah, especially these parshiot which are talking about these matters. So Shabbat Shalom Mavorach, and may we all be blessed.